the energy of the nervous system is like the wiring and the communication of the soul. Like, because we get what? Gut feelings through the nervous system.
Yes.
We get goosebumps and we get chills when we hear something that hits our soul so deeply. And that's the nervous system is communicating that message. Because it's the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the earthly spiritual realm.
Souls are eternal, and then there's still a energetic frequency. So you can feel people who have passed. You can still have a soulful connection. It's that soul to soul connection that you have when they're here physically. And you're just able to communicate through the physical body, but then remove the physical body, that soul doesn't go away. That relationship doesn't end. Welcome back, friends, to the Daily Surrender. I am so excited for today's episode because I get to introduce you to not only a dear friend and colleague of mine, but also an incredible woman who makes this podcast actually possible. She is my amazing virtual assistant, Heather Tesch, and also a woman who has a lot of different gifts and a beautiful spiritual perspective to share with the world. Heather and I first met years ago when she was a student at the School of Applied Functional Medicine, where I had gone to myself and I was on staff at the time, and our souls were instantly drawn to one another. Virtually, she is living miles and miles and miles away from me in a completely different state. But we knew from the moment that we met that a beautiful friendship was budding. And over the years, especially the past few years after my dear mentor Molly passed, Heather has really stepped in and joined my team. Not only has our friendship continued to deepen and grow, but she has been helping me bring a lot of my dreams and the visions that God has laid on me out into the world in so many different immeasurable ways behind the scenes. So, as I said, this podcast would not be possible if I didn't have Heather. And it's really, really an honor, Heather, to have you here today with us.
I'm excited.
I am so excited to have you too. Heather is so much more than just a tech whiz or an amazing assistant. She is a multi-talented healer. She's a strategist and an intuitive guide. Her work weaves together the practical and the mystical. And she herself has such a passion for walking alongside other healers, other people who are out in the world doing work to help other people. And what Heather does really uniquely is she helps them to live and work in alignment with their soul's divine design. Her and I are really synced in that. And today we're having a real heart-to-heart conversation about energy, presence, and the miraculous design of our bodies in this world. This is going to be a really soul-nourishing dialogue. So get yourself a cup of tea or whatever you're doing and buckle up because it's going to be a great one. And I cannot wait for you to hear it. Thank you again, Heather, and welcome to the podcast on the other end of it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. This is going to be so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm excited for Girl Talk.
It is. It's exactly what we wanted to have is girl talk. We have our cups of tea and just really bring a lot of the conversations that you and I have behind the scenes and bring them here for our listeners to hear. I feel so blessed that you are in my life. And even the story of our relationship and our friendship is just quite wild. I was reminding you the other day how years ago, many years ago, probably 5, 6, when did you go to SIFM?
I think I started in 2019. And I remember the first time I even reached out to you. I think it was like in 2020 because I had been following you. I'm like, ooh, I like her message. I like her energy. And then I reached out to you and I think we had a Zoom call, if I remember.
Yeah, we actually would do we did a couple consults. Like
Yes. Yeah.
you had been coaching too, so you have a quite the extensive history. And I want you to share a little bit about your journey because my goodness, you have quite the eclectic resume, I should say, with all of these stepping stones that have led you to where you are today, working together like with all these different experiences, weaving strategy and intuition and energy work. But at the time, you were going to the School of Applied Functional Medicine to learn more about applied functional medicine so that you can bring it into your work with people. And I had been there for many years and I was working on staff and I did some consults and I helped you with some of the
Yeah.
client cases that you were working with as you were stepping into the whole fields of bringing functional medicine into your work. And probably around the same time as when I was getting to know you, I had been doing some reflective journaling and I've always been a very big journaler. And I wrote in my journal as I was just envisioning where I could see God taking me. And I put that someday I'm going to have a team. I was completely solopreneuring for many years at that point, probably about 10 years, just doing it all myself, other than I did hire my mentor, Molly, to mentor me. But it was just me. It was me doing all the things, being a CEO of my own company in all the different ways. And this name came to me and I barely knew you, Heather, at the time. And I just wrote it down in my journal and I said, Heather Tesch. I said, she'll be on my team someday. Why? Well, today I know why. And we're
Right.
going to,
But at that
I
time,
could, yes, at that time I had no idea. I had no idea. We barely knew each other. And it's really awesome for me to see where we are today because you have just been so pivotal in helping me to get the Vibrant Rise Functional Wellness Collective, my group program, out into the world. A lot of the behind the scenes, anybody here who's listening, who's ever run a business in any capacity or been a part of the running of a business, you know that there are a lot of behind the scenes. And you really, really have been and are, you continue to be such a blessing to me. And when Molly passed away, I was left with this huge hole, not only because I lost someone that I loved so dearly, but she was my partner in all of the inner work and the development of me so that I could bring these things out into the world and I didn't know where to turn. And you just felt like the softest place to land, the safest place for me to be able to share my vulnerable behind the scenes in my business, my dreams. And it really is, again, your giftedness with the strategy and intuition and energy work that you bring into everything you do that has been such a blessing for me. So, before we continue, and so that our listeners have an idea of you and how unique you are, can you share a little bit about your own journey? Like, how did you go from doing all of these different things, not just functional medicine coaching and energy work and being a virtual assistant, but you've done a lot of other things too, Heather?
yeah, I mean, I think I've told you in the past, it seems at the time it all seemed so random. But
Right?
now looking back, none of it's random. Nothing is
Yeah.
random. There's no coincidences, as we always say. Everything
Mhm.
is divinely timed and for our path. And that's, I think, what has happened. And I knew
Mhm.
intuitively, like I think it was in my early 30s, I had done all these random things. And I was telling Ryan, my husband was always like, everything's so random. You don't just choose one. I'm like, but it's all going to come together eventually. And so I was trying to convince him, and intuitively, I just knew that it would all end up working out. And I needed all these skills for something. But
Mhm.
I mean, I got here because of my own long story of health, which goes
Mhm.
on since I was 2, and then it got extremely worse when I moved to the Netherlands in my late 20s. And then it was so bad that I ended up it's a long story, but I almost cracked my head open. And at that point, I was like, I need to make a change. So then I
Mhm.
overhauled my diet and I started feeling immensely better, but it didn't solve everything, right? And then we moved back to the US, and then my health really got to a really dark place, like
Mhm.
super, super dark. And mind you, I've always been interested in health. So that was always in my background. Once I got really sick when I moved home, I remember the first time I was like, I need hope. And I looked online just for ideas, and I found this happiness challenge because I was really depressed. I was so in a dark place. I had only been
Yeah.
sleeping for 2 hours a day for like 2 years.
Mhm.
I felt like I was dying.
Mhm.
And it was this online happiness challenge where every day you find something that brings you happiness.
Mhm.
And so I started doing that, and I would find myself like really depressed. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to look for something that makes me happy. And then even just that, I'm like, oh, that's a game. I got it. And that already, like, it's like, whoa, the mindset piece
Yeah.
is huge. And so I went through that. It was like 100 days. I did it every single day. And so that opened me up to the power of the mind. And then I went through functional medicine, and I got into health coaching and life coaching, all this stuff. And I still had symptoms. So then I ended up doing a spiritual retreat. I'm like, there's got to be something more
Mm.
here. And so I did a spiritual retreat that opened my whole world to everything and got me really connected to God, universe, source, whatever, people call it. And from there, it's just kind of like unfolded. And I still do functional medicine. Like, I still believe in it, but I know that that's, to me, is not like, we think it's the root, but it's not the root.
Right.
It's like
Right.
the surface level of the root. And so,
Yep.
yeah. And I think about us is we kind of have been going on this like root journey together of finding
Yes.
and getting deeper and deeper into all of it together, which is so fun. And we're seeing it in our own lives and in the lives of people that we support, which is really, really cool. So we're kind of like
Huh.
on the same journey together of exploration and understanding. And here comes Kaylee.
Oh, Kaylee is Heather's very sweet little kitty, and she
Yep.
always wants to be a part of
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
It was last year I guided you on your first MDMA journey, and Kaylee had to join us immediately.
Yes. Yes, she
I
did.
love that so much. Yes, and for our audience listening, that is probably one of the biggest reasons that you and I have bonded because in our both of our behind the scenes, we're out here helping other people, but we're also on our own journeys and trying to find answers, both being critical thinkers, women who continue to dig and ask why and know that there's more. And we know that there's more because with the infinite, there's all. I think about that often.
Mhm.
With God, it's infinite possibilities. So when we feel this inner sense that there's more. There is more. It's infinite. And so the search for that has continued to lead us both to the truths that we know today. And while we both bring functional medicine in different ways into our
Mm,
own lives and perhaps even into the work that we do with other people, it doesn't stop there. And it has blessed both of us, but we've also both been challenged to continue to dig deeper and deeper. And I really appreciate what you said about your own journey of seeking and the way the happiness challenge connected the mind to the body for you. And then
mm,
you went on a spiritual retreat and you're like, oh, and now this is the importance of really fueling your soul and having spiritual practices that help support the spirit because we can't put any part of us into a container. We can't just say this is a physical issue because it isn't a physical issue at all. What are some of the truths that you've really come to see, especially around energy? Because as you've developed and brought a lot of your past into the work that you do with other people, you do a lot of energy work. And I don't even know how to fully define what you do with people. I've
sure.
experienced it, right? And then that's actually really awesome because this world wants to put everything into boxes and neat little, even protocols that are all buttoned up or definitions of things. And we can't really put words to the infinite. But I can share from someone who's experienced you and the work that you do with energy. And I can say that you are very, very gifted. You are very connected. You obviously are working as a vessel when you are working with people in I'm going to use air quotes for those watching us on video, your energy work, because, oh, and I threw some balloons. It is energy, but share more about that with us.
Like what energy is or
Yeah, I
how
would
it
love.
works?
Yeah. Why don't we talk first about energy in simple terms?
Yeah.
And like, how would you even explain what we're talking about here to someone who might even think, oh, there they go. They're going to get a little woo woo and start
Here.
talking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I thought energy was woo woo. Like intuitively, I knew because I've always been in tune with the stars. When I was young, I wanted to spend the summer. I got out my encyclopedia and started researching and reading up on all the constellations and the astrology.
Mm,
Like, okay, so I always knew there was energy, but intellectually, I wanted scientific hard proof of
mhm,
stuff. So I actually like to bring in when I'm talking about energy and spirituality, I like to bring in the science with it
mhm,
because we get to bridge it because I feel like the two are actually connected.
mhm,
So, for simple terms, one thing that really got me into fully believing, besides experiences of energy, analogies of believing energy was real, was someone said, your remote control, it's
mm,
energy. I'm like,
mm,
oh my God, the garage door opener that uses
mhm,
energy. We can't
mhm,
see. There's nothing tying the remote control to the TV or the garage door.
mhm.
You push a button and then it just works. We have these invisible forces around us all day, every day, that we don't even realize it's energy, like the Wi Fi, the Bluetooth, the internet. We can't see it. We probably
Mhm,
can feel it, but we just trust that it's going to work, even though we have no idea how it works. We just trust, oh, this is going to work. It's going to send my email. How? I
mm.
don't know, but we just know
Right,
it does. We have full faith that these things are going to work for us.
right.
That's energy. And then in like the human experience, like you're thinking of somebody and then all of a sudden they call you, which just happened to us recently, right?
Yes.
Or you walk into a room and then you can feel the joy or the tension or that, oh, there's something off here. That's energy.
Right.
It's everywhere. It's like all around us. The sun that elicits a specific frequency. Like it's a really strong. I looked it up a while ago. The hertz, because frequency is
Yep.
measured in hertz. Energy is, and it's strong. Like hertz level is insanely because it's
Mhm,
giving us life force energy. It's what creates life on the planet, and that's energy.
mhm,
So light is energy. So moon's frequency, it's a little bit lower than the sun's, a lot lower, but that's energy. Everything like, around us is energy.
mhm.
The
Absolutely.
voice box is energy. It's just frequency, like or a vibration, which is
Mhm.
energy. So it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Last night, my youngest daughter is doing a semester abroad in Florence, Italy. And she called me and she couldn't sleep. She had the worst sore throat of her life. Her whole head was pounding. And being mom, being so far away from her, there's not much I can do. There really wasn't much that I could do. I didn't,
Mhm.
she's not in my home. If she were here, I'd have all of my different tinctures and herbal remedies for her, but there was nothing. And so I sent her healing frequency music, and it was in 963 hertz, which is often the frequency of God. And I said, why don't you play this, download it, and then put your phone on airplane mode so you're not getting the extra EMFs, but play it while you're sleeping, and we'll pray. And while we pray, we're going to visualize perfect health. We're going to really affirm that perfect health is available for you because we know that. She at
True.
first was calling and saying, I don't know. My roommate said it might be mono. And then my other roommate said it might be strep. And I don't know, mom. And I don't have time. She was spiraling. Right. And so that right there was a negative energy that she was bringing into her whole being. And all I knew how to do with helping her in this situation was let's shift that energy. Because if we can shift your energy and shift your frequency, and my podcast last week was all on frequency and the frequency of love, and get you out of fear and get you
Yes.
back into a place of calm confidence, faith, right? Let's drop in, stop telling stories And
Get
I'm sharing
outside,
this.
stop listening to the external sources that are telling
Yes.
you that might make you
Yes.
believe. Yeah, no.
Exactly that, because if we can catch ourselves from scripting the story that it's going to be so bad, and then our mind follows it and our energy follows it, and that becomes the frequency that we're vibrating. So she said, okay, I can do that. She felt empowered by that. And I woke up this morning and I couldn't wait to check on her because she's 6 hours ahead of me. And she said, I feel so much better, Mom. I feel so much better. She gargled with salt water and she took 2 ibuprofen last night. Like, that was all the resources that she had available to her outside of shifting her energy and shifting it back into a place of calm confidence, listening to the music, the God frequency. And I was in awe, and yet I was not at all shocked. I wasn't shocked because when you think about it, how is our physical body supposed to heal when we're hanging in really low vibrating frequencies? And emotions can, in and of themselves, be a frequency, and we're
They all are.
bringing it. They're all frequency, right? Yeah. So I thought that that was
Energy and motion.
it is. It's exactly. It is. It's energy and
Mhm,
motion. I mean, right now you're holding your cat, and in petting her, you're, I'm sure, feeling calmer. But if
mhm.
you were super anxious, she would be feeling your anxiety,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And instead, right now, you two are exchanging this really calming energy with one another. Yeah. So I love your explanation and thank you for that. And it is really important for, especially for people who they need to understand. Like, my husband's one of them. He did, gosh, it was probably like a year ago. I think he's done 2 energy sessions with you, but I had asked him what he wasn't feeling great. Oh, he had just done one of his journeys and he had dug up a lot of things and there was a lot coming up for him and his physical body was just feeling it. And I asked him if he would like to do some work with you, and you work virtually. And he always says, I'm a healthy skeptic. I'm open to it because I trust you, Jen. But what exactly is this? And I said, I'm going to let Heather explain. And you explained it the way you did here today, in a way that my husband's, again, healthy skeptic of a mind could understand. And it helped him to relax enough. And he's a believer. He cannot explain it, but the things that he experienced and he felt, and the things that confirmed when the two of you spoke, because you could feel and see certain things and he could feel and see certain things. So talk a little bit more about that here for us, for anybody who might be curious about that.
yeah.
Anybody who maybe has heard even of, because you're trained in Reiki.
Yeah, Usui Reiki. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, yes. So every session I do with people, it always ends up being so everyone's different and the experience is
Mm-hmm.
always completely different. And when I first started doing these, like even with our first session we ever had together, I think you came to me for immune system support. You had a cold. And so I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work on the immune system. So in Reiki, you can kind of like pinpoint exactly where you're going to go. And you can do almost like a psychic surgery of sorts where you're removing the toxin or whatever is there. And so I'm like, I'm going to go in. I have my mind set on, I'm going to work, target her white blood cells and, her lungs and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, though, more emotional stuff comes up. And I'm like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not right. That's not right. But I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go with it. I'd write it down. And it ends up being this whole like spiritual experience
Yeah.
outside of the immune system.
Yeah.
And the emotion that we uncovered, all the emotional stuff and this
Mm-hmm.
heightened spiritual experience was actually the driver of the cold or whatever it was that you had going on.
Yes.
Like, so, and I've learned in these sessions that I can't let my mind get in the way because it's going to go all over and wherever it needs to go, it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But with Dante, your husband, at the end, it was like 10 minutes left. And I remember feeling, oh my goodness, there's this something in Reiki called the lightning bolt activation, which is a
Mm-hmm.
huge surge of energy. And I felt the need to do it. And so I activated the lightning rod energy, sent a huge surge of energy. And I felt this overwhelming power of like, I can't even, it's just this overwhelming sensation of like, whew,
Yeah.
something just hit me hard. And then at that time, because we conversed afterwards, and I said, what happened 10 minutes or so before we ended? He's like, the music went out.
I love this story.
And
Yes.
I'm like, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. Mm-mm.
No. Every time it just blows my mind the things that people experience and then
Mhm.
I'm experiencing it. And we're like distance, like we are like thousands of miles apart and we're having
Mhm.
these similar experiences.
Mhm.
It's incredible. And that's why energy is like totally where it's at. And I mean, we have our own energetic bodies. And if those are
Mhm.
not taken care of, like our physical body, well,
Mhm.
then we're going to have more disease or symptoms or just
Mhm.
and how we're living.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I love also how, you mentioned the first time that you ever did a session with me. And I remember that day distinctly. It was September 23rd, 2023. I will always remember that day. I have journaled that day because Molly had passed away 3.5 months prior in June of 2023. Somebody that I was incredibly connected with, very, very, very deeply connected. We had such a soulful relationship that still continues. Maybe that's part of this conversation too,
Mhm.
because the soul has energy. And I was grieving. I was deep in the throes of grief. You cannot rush grief. Anybody listening to this podcast who's ever experienced grief is it you have to honor the process of grief. And it was the first time since Molly died that I didn't feel well. And one of the many, many things that Molly helped me work through in my own work with her was I would get sick a lot. I'm doing all the things. I'm running this very successful functional medicine practice, coaching all of these people, helping them on their health. And my behind the scenes, I had a lot of shame because I wasn't perfect. I was struggling. My
You would
health,
never know that looking, like
no.
watching your Instagram stories and reels. Like you look like you had everything put together.
I wanted everybody to
Yeah.
think that I had everything put together too, not because I'm not a authentic person or I was being disingenuous, but I also believed to some degree I did have things together.
Mhm.
And the other part was I mean, it was so private and was so vulnerable. And I did not understand how I could do quote unquote all the things, right? Like all the most expensive supplements out there, biohacking tools. I was doing the things. And I even was doing energy work too. But I remember at one point, a woman that I worked with doing energy work was like, Jen, you're doing too much. Like you're moving too much and your body is very confused and you're sending it this message. I'm really sensing that you're sending your body this message that you're broken and we're trying to force fixing. And so one of the things Molly did really well with me was teach me so much about mind body connection, our spiritual connection, our thoughts, how the thoughts lead us into dis-ease. And it was the first time, again, since she died, that I got sick and it triggered something in me because every other time that I would get sick, I had her like in the prior 4 years. I had her to be there for me and to talk me through it and to shift my focus and to shift my thoughts. And so I had a fever and like nothing else, but I had a fever. And I mentioned it to you because you and I had started working together. I had hired you as my assistant to build out my Vibrant Rise functional wellness program. So we're early days of working together. And you said, I would love to do a session with you if you're open to it. I'm like, sure, whatever. What time, right? And when you're doing a virtual session, you set a time and then you said to go lay down. And I put like some quiet music on. And it was such a wild experience because it's not like I was tripping or anything. It's subtle and yet very real and powerful. So I started seeing these colors and I'm like, let me just follow the colors. And then I start following light and I'm seeing this huge bright light and I could just feel myself almost leaving my body. And I'm like, oh, let's just go with it. And I felt this absolute intense sensation of love. It was just this light and love and this waterfall. I could see this waterfall, and there's no other way to explain it other than it was just intense love. And I'm like, okay, that was pretty awesome. And you and I got on the phone call after doing this session, and you described in great detail everything that I saw before I shared it with you. And like, oh, what? And you saw even more. What you saw was Molly's soul. And then you could see our souls like connecting. There's like this touch, it was like a kiss. And that was what I felt. And then you said that you had a message, you heard a message, and it was to go. And you're like, Jen, is there like a water, like some sort of water? Because Molly wanted you to go to the water and take a journal and go to the water. And I'm like, what? That's wild. Yeah, I have a really special spot. I call it my river spot. And it is a very special spot and a very sacred spot to me because Molly was the one who introduced me to it. Not because she literally walked me to it, but because she taught me how to walk and stop running. And I live in this
Mm.
beautiful area of Pennsylvania where I have a walking trail, but I ran the trail for the majority of the years I lived here because I was always running, running, running. And she invited me. Part of my healing came in stopping running because I needed to stop the catabolic breakdown and I needed to learn how to move slowly. And so in my walking, I discovered this beautiful river spot that I would go and I'd sit. And Molly and I would talk a lot there. And I would send her little video clips of the water. And she would always say, I love that sound. I love that sound. And so there was no other way that you would have known about that. Like that just was crazy. And so here I am with a fever and it's starting to get dark outside. And I say to my husband, I'm going to my river spot. And he's used to me enough to like, okay, Jen, please keep your phone on. And so I took my journal and I went to the river spot and I just laid there because one of the things you said is just lay there, just
Mhm.
lay and receive. And all of a sudden I got this prompting to take out the journal and I couldn't even see it was getting dark. And I just journaled and journaled whatever was coming to me, coming through me. And I got back home and read it in the light, and it was a message from Molly. And every little thing that was in it was so Molly. It was even the way that she would speak to me. She called me grasshopper, which is what she would call me here. And she would call me grasshopper towards the end of our work together. And very personal, very specific. It was just strung together. And that shifted me so much. And of course, the fever broke. Like it was completely gone. And that was very, very, very powerful for me in showing me how, like, really, really how much energy is everything,
Mhm.
everything.
Yep.
And so it got me thinking more and more and more about how my thoughts are affecting my physical body. Again, not that I haven't heard this or hadn't studied this in different ways or even hadn't experienced it personally in my work with Molly, but I'm like, there's more. There's so much more here. There's more to energy than we even realize. And if God is infinite, then there's infinite possibilities when it comes to this. And so I became a believer in the work, especially I'd had in person energy work done before, Reiki and cranial sacral work, and but I had never done long distance prior to working with you. It was just an amazing, amazing experience for me. And again, I think it's opened me up in so many different ways to the ways that I work with people, and I know that the ways that you're working with people too, Heather.
Well, I mean, that experience with you also like blew my mind
Mm-hmm.
so much because you had the out of body experience and I felt you leave. And it
Mm-hmm.
was insane because I was like, this can't be real. And I even wrote it down in my notebook because what I experienced, I'll write down and I kind of try to keep track of timing when this happens so I can come back and we can compare notes. And I was like, oh my, I think she just left her body.
Yeah.
And then you
Mhm.
said you did. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, you can't make this stuff up.
Mhm.
It's insane. But that also then solidified more for me that it really is. It's the energy because we are souls and souls are energy.
Yes, our
And
soul has
that's how we're
it's energy.
communicating is through
Yes.
that energetic like communication between the souls.
Mhm. 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 Absolutely, absolutely. I was just listening to a podcast of a woman who is a neuroscientist, and she has been studying this ever since her husband passed away, because since her husband passed, she has experienced the connection with his soul in a way that, being a neuroscientist, she wanted to better understand it. And I just ordered her book called Science, and now I'm blanking on her name, but because I'm fascinated by this too. But being someone who was, again, a scientist, she really wanted to understand all of this. And in the talk, she was talking about energy and, again, frequency, and our soul. Our soul still exists because we know that our souls are eternal, and then there's still a energetic frequency. So you can feel people who have passed. You can still
Mm.
have a soulful connection. It's that soul to soul connection that you have when they're here physically. And you're just able to communicate through the physical body, but then remove the physical body. That soul doesn't go away. That relationship
Yep.
doesn't end, especially if it was a very, what I have found is, especially if it was a very deep soulful connection here, you're going to continue that after. And that was something that Molly promised me when she, her and I were walking that thin veil between here and there for her the 6 months prior, because she had cancer and it was a very rapid decline for her in the physical sense. But she said, Jen, I promise you, I will always just be one thought away, and I will continue my work here. I know that you will be able to continue your relationship and vice versa. And over 2 years into this, and I can attest for that. And I know that that's energy. That's energy, and it's
And it's her
beautiful.
true essence.
It is her true essence. It is her
I
true
mean,
essence.
true, because that our soul is our
Yes.
true essence.
Right.
And then we're
Right.
living in this physical body, which puts limitations on things because it's a physical space.
Mm-hmm.
But the true essence is the soul, and the soul wants us to be living out the true essence through our physical experience through these
Mm-hmm.
bodies. So
Mm-hmm.
then when we're not doing that, then what happens? Like as you
Right.
say on the podcast, and we have symptoms appear,
Mm-hmm.
dis-ease even in our life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the body is the vessel for the soul, but it's how the soul communicates, saying,
Mm.
"Hello, I'm sending you this message because we're out of alignment somewhere."
Mm.
Because
Mm.
otherwise the soul talks through energy, and then energy is, well, trapped energy in a specific body part is the way of the soul saying, "Hello, I'm trying to get your
Yes.
attention.
Yes.
Look at me. Like, we need to fix this. We need to not fix it, but we need to become in alignment again so you can live out the life you're intended to be living out here."
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I love that so much, Heather. And I know that that's been a massive growth edge for you and I in the realization of it, and the acceptance of it, and the receiving of it. Because for two women who've had a lot of behind the scenes physical challenges in a whole variety of ways, I think that was probably early on what we started to bond over, was like, oh, hi, you're doing this work, but you've got your own behind the scenes, and you're still working on yourself, and you have all of these, quote unquote, crazy physical symptoms that you don't know where they're coming from. A big growth edge for the both of us has been in receiving the physical limitations that show up in our body, or these physical symptoms of dis-ease, but receiving them as divine invitations to dig deeper, to ask the soul, what are you asking me for more of? What are you asking me for less of? Where am I out of alignment with my divine design? And how are you here for me? How are you
Mhm.
here for me? And when we can shift into that perspective, which is actually gratitude, right? And you shared here how your first big awareness aha around the power of the mind was when you did this 100-day happiness challenge,
Yep.
and it changed you. So if we can shift and take a look at, oh, okay, so I'm having this physical symptom of constipation show up for me, and we can get really pissy and mad and treat ourselves like we're broken and try and force the body into being fixed, or we can receive it and start to ask questions and start to say, why are you here? Sometimes it might be that we need more fiber and water, and that's an awesome awareness. And it can also be a lot deeper than that. Like, what am I holding on to? What is stuck in my body? What energy is stuck in my body? What emotions are stuck in my body? What stories am I?
We might not feel safe in
Mhm,
this world. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
mhm.
you mentioned we could try forcing ourselves to
Yeah.
like forcing the fix.
Yeah.
Well, when we're forcing, then we're also denying the infinite intelligence that's already within us
Ugh. Mm,
rather than allowing the body to do what it's meant to do and allowing the
mhm,
soul, like following the soul's guidance
mhm,
and just
mhm,
creating alignment because we
mhm.
have the infinite intelligence already that we can heal. I mean, our skin heals when we get a wound.
Yes.
And what's healing that? We don't really, some people might put Neosporin on it, but that's
Mhm,
just to prevent an infection, but the
mm,
body heals it.
mhm, mhm,
So how can it,
mhm.
if we're having these chronic issues, isn't there an infinite intelligence that can heal that too when we
Of
get out of
course
the
there
way?
is. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're shifting out of a state of giving power to anything outside of one. And when we get back into alignment, we're back
Mhm.
in with the infinite. We're in alignment with the infinite. And with the infinite, there's infinite possibilities. There's perfect health. It's unconditional love, which is the highest frequency that there is.
The healing
And so
frequency.
it's a healing frequency. So how can
Mhm.
we get back there? I remember years ago, it was probably 2021, the COVID pandemic, and the whole household here all got, that nasty thing. And I was really struggling afterwards for weeks and weeks and weeks with histamine, very, very high histamine. My nose would just run like a faucet. My eyes were swollen shut. And Molly had invited me. So it was very beautiful. Like, I'm inviting you. I'm not going to tell you, but you're going to choose to do it if you want to do it. But she had invited me to see if I could shift it with nothing but my mind.
Oh,
And I was like, all right, because I'm doing all the other things and they're not quite working. I got tissue stuck up my nose. And I sat in my chair in my office and I just visualized, and I could visualize calm coming to the tissue in my mucous membranes, and I could visualize the mucus stopping, dripping from my nose, and it did. It stopped. It was not something that I was able to hold. Like, it wasn't like it stopped 100%. But what that did for me was empower me with the understanding of how much we can shift with our own mind. And later on, about 6 months after that, I had a really big surgery. It was a very painful surgery, and there was absolutely nothing it was a 10 out of 10 surgery. My surgeon reminded me of that when I called at 3 a.m. and said, nothing is helping me cut the pain. And he's like, yeah, I told you it was 10 out of 10. You just got to like deal with it. I was like, awesome. So what am I going to do? Writhe in pain for the next few weeks? Or I'm going to use that experience that I had and shifting my histamine, and I would do visualizations. I'd go take a bath. I'd play certain music, and I would use my breath and my mind, and I would shift away from the pain, and the pain would dissipate. It would just stop and get to the point where I was able to calm down. And I also was observing during that time how much physical tightness I was bringing around the pain because I was
mm,
trying to control it. Right. And when we can bring softening into our being, and then we can get our minds away from a state of fear, out of fear, and out of giving power to whatever the thing is in front of us, and again, back into the divine mind of God, where there's peace and there's wholeness and there's relaxation. It's almost as if you're having this out of body experience because you're no longer attached to the thing.
yeah.
You're back into the state of wholeness. You're back into that state of the divine. And it is amazingly powerful.
Yeah. And you're saying if you're trying to control it, you're resisting the
Hmm.
pain. And when we
Hmm.
resist, what it persists,
Right.
right? So if we're just going to allow and soften into it, then you're in a state of acceptance. And
Yes.
then
Oh.
acceptance is where we can heal. It's like the other
Mm.
day, I think I was telling you I had some major distension happening in my gut, my lower gut, just nasty. And when it happens, it's very hard for me to breathe because it hurts. It's so tight in there. And I found myself just spiraling out of fear.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, why is this happening? It hurts so bad. I can't breathe, all this stuff. And I'm like, hold up, Heather.
Mhm.
Go sit outside with the
Mm.
birds, my happy place. And then
Mhm.
I'm just going to do some breath work, the heart math breath work of I am here now in this. And just even if I can't do deep belly breathing because of the tightness, I'll just do a little bit and I'll
Mm.
just soften a little bit and then maybe soften a little more. And so I did like 5 minutes of it
Mhm.
and then distension went away
Of
after the
course
five.
it did. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. But if I
That's
would have continued to resist it and
yep.
fight it,
Mhm.
it would have probably gotten worse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
even just my mind softened, my whole body softened. I felt so much calmer, more
Mhm.
at peace. I felt safer in my body. I was
Mhm.
trusting my body more because wow,
Mhm.
it went away. It does know how to do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
There is
Right.
infinite intelligence in there that I can trust.
Yes.
And I think that's
Yes.
also some of the challenges with people who have chronic illnesses is it's very hard to trust the body because
Yes.
it feels like it is betraying you for,
Mhm.
so long, but really, is it the body? The body's sending us the messages. Where are we out of
Mhm.
alignment with our
Mhm.
soul? What is our soul trying to tell us here?
Mhm. Absolutely. I have worked with so many clients, and I know you have as well, that come here and they'll come here because of some physical symptoms that are showing up for them. And I'm gonna use a current client that we've been working together for 4 or 5 months, and she came here because she had experienced a miscarriage last year. She's in her mid 30s. She had been having so much anxiety, gut issues, not sleeping well. Periods were really not fun for her, and she said, "I need to get my foundations in order." And one of the ways that I'm very mind, body, spirit when I work with people. And I would say that the physical support that I offer today, I'm like right there with them, but I don't place as much heavy emphasis on it as leading the way I used to, because I know that we have to shift the other things first. We have to get this person who's in a really dysregulated fight or flight nervous system state calmed down, or the body won't heal. It will not heal. It's going to continue to pull her out of alignment. And so we did bring on some things to help balance out her blood sugar and help her eat more protein. She wasn't eating enough protein, like simple things, drinking water, hydrating properly, getting yourself out in the early morning sunshine, feet on the earth, things like that, which were making a big difference. But what we really started to do was unpack the beliefs that were underneath the anxiety that was showing up for her. I would ask, what's driving the anxiety? What's underneath it? And she had a lot of fear around getting pregnant again. Like
Mm,
the idea of getting pregnant, and then if I lose the baby, and then what if I don't get pregnant? And it was just a lot of the things that were swirl, 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 right? And
projecting
so
into the future.
exactly. She was living in the past and the future. So she was living in the past experience of having a miscarriage, which is
Mhm,
extremely painful. I know you've had multiple miscarriages
mhm,
yourself, right?
mhm,
It's not at all an easy thing to walk through, but does the past define the present and the future? And the reality of that is it doesn't, right? And so, of course, we want to look at the body and take a look and make sure that, we're optimizing things, which we've done with her. But she really did a lot of work on letting go of the timeline. And she realized that she was putting so much pressure on herself to not only get pregnant and stay pregnant and all of the timeline
mhm.
around it. And then at the same time, what ifing. And again, any of the listeners listening to this, I'm sure you feel anxiety even thinking about being in that state. So she shifted away from having a timeline at all, like dropped it. Doesn't mean she doesn't want to get pregnant. She does. But she realized that this experience that she's in and what landed her here and the work that we've done together is a beautiful gift for her to unpack more of what's inside of her that was limiting her beliefs. That her GYN had sent her to a fertility specialist, and she and I would talk about that because, of course, the fertility specialist immediately suggested going to IUIs and IVF. But that's what she was going there for, was saying, hi, I want to get pregnant. And they said, okay, well, these are the options that we could offer for you. And so she had this in her head. And then the more that we quieted her and the more that she was calming her nervous system, and she's someone who did a lot of that through writing and time in nature, the more that she could tap into her intuition, and her intuition did not feel like the path of going to the fertility doctor was where she was supposed to be. She really wanted to be here. She really wanted to empower herself with all that she was learning in our work together.
Yeah.
And so it was like this energetic, it's like I could see her visibly softening and changing before my eyes, like in every way as she let go, because that was a story that she was living into. We met yesterday, and again, 4 or 5 months later, the amount of softness that has come over her and the things that she has released and the things that she's become aware of that were really limiting her. And then her physical health in just 4 short months, she lowered her hemoglobin A1C by zero point 0.8, which is a lot. In 4 months, she has lost like 12 pounds. She is sleeping better than she's ever slept before. Her periods are not torturous to her. This is in 4 months. And I don't go heavy on the protocols that I used to before,
Yeah.
when I was like all gung ho functional medicine, leading with that. We got to fix everything all at once. And we do it layer by layer, and I let my clients lead. And we hadn't even really done much gut work at all outside of like using natural foods and hydrating and things like that. And she said to me yesterday, I'm ready now to do a little bit of gut work, more targeted, like with like some antimicrobials. And I said, I love that. I love that you intuitively know what you're ready for. And I also love that you intuitively knew that we shouldn't do that from the start. Because if we were to do it from the start, you and I both know this, Heather, and for our listeners, it wouldn't stick. I don't work that way anymore because I used to push the protocol right away. And I would do it in my own health, and I would do it with clients. And if that person energetically was not ready, right? If they weren't in a place where their nervous system was regulated enough that they had the belief that they were able to even heal enough, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't. Or it would work for a short period of time and then it would come back. And all that is band-aiding. That's no different than allopathic medicine. And
Yeah.
I don't work that way anymore. I go after the metaphysical. And I really help people unpack the metaphysical,
Mm-hmm.
and we lead with that. And we ask, what is your soul longing for? Your soul is there. And through these experiences that you're having, the soul is messaging you. So let's take a look at that. And my goodness, when we can lean in and listen, we start to again see all of these different experiences as being for us, not against us. And when we can get into that state, we are now in a state, and we mentioned this earlier, of gratitude. And when we're in a state of gratitude, we're elevating our frequency and we are amplifying light and we're amplifying good. And that's going to have so much more of a positive effect on your overall well-being than taking handfuls of supplements.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And she's like, if you're in the energy of force and control, that's very masculine energy. How are you going to get
Oh.
pregnant in the masculine energy? She's softening up, which means she's stepping into the divine feminine
Mm.
energy, which can give and create life,
Yes.
and then also
Yes.
like you're thinking like the nervous system. So if you're in
Mhm.
force and control, the nervous system's going to be totally dysregulated. And which
Mhm.
is also interesting. Like I think of like the nervous system's the first part of our body to be created in
Mhm.
the womb, right? So it's like the bridge between the spiritual and the earthly realm. Well, if we're in a dysregulated nervous system,
Mhm.
how are we going to be connected to our higher self? How
Yes.
are we going to listen to that guidance? How are we going to be able to create life
Right.
from that? So it's like we need to have a regulated, calm, coherent nervous system in order for us to hear ourselves clearly, to bring in life
Mhm.
into the world, to create life.
Mm.
The energy of the nervous system is like the wiring and the communication of the soul. Like, because we get what? Gut feelings through the nervous system.
Yes.
We
Mhm.
get goosebumps and we get chills when we hear
Mhm.
something that hits our soul so deeply. And the
Mhm.
nervous system is communicating that message.
Mhm.
So the nervous system is like the key for healing. And
Absolutely.
so many levels, physical and emotional, spiritual.
Mhm.
That's because it's the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the earthly
Mm.
spiritual realm. Is so cool. I mean, if you think about it, like it's the center of all our chakras, like the root chakra to the crown
Yes.
chakra. So that's
Yes.
connecting earth to spirit.
Right.
So it's
Oh
so
my goodness. It's
cool.
so cool, Heather. It really, really, really is so cool.
Oh my gosh. Like all the
Yes.
connections of like the science bringing in to the spirituality and spirituality to the science and how it's all connected.
It is all connected. It's so, so
And so
all
when we
connected.
disconnect, then what
Mhm.
happens? Oh
Mhm.
my goodness.
Mhm.
I was reflecting on all of this as you were talking and the energy of everything. And I think partly why we get so much disease in our modern world now is, well, one, we're not aligned with nature. And
Yeah.
nature is where like the highest frequency is, and we are nature. And the divine is in nature, the
Yeah.
divine is in us,
Yep.
but we disconnect thinking we're like machines and we need
Yeah.
to be inside the home, on the computer, on the technology, rather than in our real home, which is in nature and
Mhm.
like within the divine. And what's going to happen? I mean, everything's going to
Mhm.
be misaligned then. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
we're
I
not
love
in
that so
tune
much.
anymore.
No. No. Very sadly, we have become more and more disconnected
Yeah,
from
everything.
creation. I mean,
Yeah,
creation is all around us. It's all
in
around us.
us.
It is us. It is us. And it's all around us.
Yeah.
And creation is what's been given to us for our sustenance. When
Mhm.
you go back to, even if you look at it from like a scriptural standpoint, you're looking at creation as all of it as being provided for our sustenance. Like, this is all the things that you need. And we need water and air and plants and birds and animals. Of these things have been in sunshine,
Mhm.
huge, been given to us for our sustenance. And then here we are as humans thinking that we know better. So we box all of that out and we have so much artificial. And what are we seeing? We're seeing more dis-ease than we've ever seen before because we're more and more disconnected from our creator through creation,
Mhm.
which is very sad, but it's also really exciting when you become aware of it because you realize, oh, wait, all I actually need to do right now to shift how I'm feeling, even in this moment, is to go outside. Like, you shared that awesome story of going outside to do some heart math, affirmation breathing, but you went outside. You didn't do it in front of your computer. You went and you connected in nature. And for our listeners who don't know, the earth itself has a frequency and there's a resonance, and it's called the Schumann resonance. So when we can sit on the earth or walk barefoot on the earth, we're actually receiving those beautiful vibrations from the creator's creation that are then coming into our body. And there's a lot of studies on the Schumann resonance and earthing, it's often called earthing or grounding, and how it can help with pain and deepening sleep and shifting mood. Like, we have science on that. So are we as human beings connecting
Yeah.
ourselves to the things that have been created by our creator for our sustenance, or are we lacking in those things? And again, it's beautiful because it goes right back to energy.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So the sun has a really high intensity energy and
Mhm.
frequency, right? And ironically, that's when our cortisol rises with the sun,
Yes.
right? And so that gives us life for the day
Yeah.
and energy for the day. And then as the
Mhm.
sun dwindles, our cortisol dwindles. The moon comes up, our
Mhm.
melatonin is supposed to come up. And then what happens? We
Mhm.
start to go quieter and within as
Yeah.
the moon is a
Yeah.
lower frequency. So we are
Mm.
literally designed to be in connection with the sun and the moon every day,
Yes.
but then we're not really living that way with
Mhm.
all our devices and we're stuck inside all day. We're not getting the light from the sun or the moon. And
Mhm.
we have so many sleep disorders. We have hormonal
Oh,
disorders.
yeah.
Our circadian rhythm is aligned with the sun and the moon, but
Mhm.
we're not aligning ourselves with it. So
Yeah.
that's when we're gonna have all these issues. It's so crazy just to see the connection between, well,
Yeah.
how we live and the lack of nature and God exposure
Oh,
towards
I love
us.
that. The lack of nature and then leading to lack of God exposure, and that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah,
My
it's
sleep, I used to struggle with sleep like you when you were talking about the years that you had like 2 hours a night, and I had the exact same thing, and I was just a chronic insomniac, and I would say I mean, the nervous system work that I have done on myself and many, many layers of this has made the most difference, the greatest difference in my overall health and connecting, like really connecting myself to the sun and the moon has been a huge contributor to my overall circadian rhythm balance, bringing it back into alignment because I wasn't in alignment. I really struggled to fall asleep. I struggled to stay asleep. But when I became really committed to making sure that I'm outside in the morning sunshine in one way or another, whether that's going for a walk or taking my, lemon water outside in the morning, just going outside and getting my eyes with no sunglasses out into the sunshine. And then in the evening, and I'm so committed to this, my husband is too, that we walk year round, unless it's an absolute blizzard and maybe it's like single digits with strong whipping winds, we will bundle ourselves up and after dinner every single evening we go for a walk because it's that moon, like our contact with the moon and being outside in the fresh air and hearing the sounds of nature at night, that is fuel for us. It's helping us and it helps to regulate your sleep. I usually give takeaways here for people. I hope you can just pick up little bits of takeaways here today in our conversation, but getting yourself out in nature, whatever the things that you might be struggling with or not even struggling with, but you just want to continue to optimize your life, go outside in nature, connect with nature, and really pay attention. See if you can feel. Like, as Heather and I
Feel,
are sharing our own stories, like,
seriously.
can you feel? Check your mood, maybe some of the inflammation markers in your own body, like, oh, did your knee hurt less? Do you have less of a headache if you've gone outside and just sat in the grass? You don't need to commit your whole day to it, but if you can spend a few minutes, it's going to start to make a profound impact. So paying attention, how do I feel before? How do I feel after? Energy too. Do an energy check on yourself. When I catch myself and I'm feeling like I'm not breathing very deeply, I'm constricting, I'm tight, I shift my energy. I start to take a look at the thoughts that are in my head. I soften the thoughts in my head. Heather, can you share with us, since we're talking about this, like you talked about doing that heart math? And can you repeat that again? Like even the mantra that you say for our listeners that might be really helpful for them?
The mantra is I am here now
Mm,
in this. And I
mm,
personally find it super powerful as someone who's had a lot of chronic symptoms because I want to
mm,
escape my body because I don't feel
mhm.
safe in my body. So it helps me
Yeah.
to reconnect into the body so I can start
Mhm,
trusting my body again. But then it's also just
mhm,
great anytime you feel like your brain is scattered and all over the
mhm,
place. Like it helps to really
mhm,
bring yourself here and now
mhm,
instead of, oh, I'm
mhm,
worrying about the future. Oh, the past did this. It's going to create this again. Like so it
mhm.
helps us to, I think, reconnect to the divine self in us and around us. Because, like, for
Yeah.
me, if I am here now and this, I start to really focus on what I'm experiencing, the wind on my face, the sound of the birds, the sun on my face, like I start to really feel and experience And to me, that's really
Mm.
what is in the moment now, or experiencing and feeling those things, not just physically being here, but like absorbing all the goodness that's around. Hmm.
Oh, I love that so much. And that brings us to presence. And I know we're getting to the end of our time here together, but the other day you shared a really cool story with me that maybe you can share here with the listeners briefly. You caught yourself grieving. You love birds, and I love birds too. I think you have an extra special gift for connecting with animals. Truly, you do. There are people who are gifted with that. And so you love your birds, and you were grieving the birds leaving even before they were left. You knew that that was coming for them. Share that story with us and what it really taught you about living in the here and the now and presence.
Yeah, they left today. Oh, um,
Oh.
she left. So yeah, I have this very deep connection with nature. And one day I'm out with the hummingbirds. I'm like physically close to my hummingbird feeder. And so they're not afraid. They'll
Mhm.
just come flop themselves on the feeder and I sit under them and we are like in the same space together. It's really magical. And I'll just sit there and watch them and I'll talk to them and stuff. Sometimes I find them so beautiful. I'll just start crying just sitting there. But this one time I started crying not because of love or joy or their beauty, but it was because I found myself thinking about, oh, you're going to be leaving soon to go migrate down to the south and you're not
Mhm.
going to be here anymore. And so I started crying and I noticed, I'm like, whoa, but wait, Heather, she's here in front of you now. I'm here with
Yes.
her now in
Yes.
this moment. So why are you projecting what she's going to do in the
Yes.
future now? You just took away your own happiness.
You
I took
took
it
away your own
away.
happiness. Uh-huh.
I took it away by anticipating
Yes.
what's going to come. And so then I
Mhm.
like shook it off and I just said, no, she's here. I'm here. I'm going to enjoy this moment. And then my bliss came back. But that's the moment I
Mm.
noticed what it really means to live in the present. Cause
Mhm.
I was catching my thoughts. I'm like, this is insane. I'm literally taking away my own happiness.
Taking away your own happiness. I love it. I love how you noticed it. I love how you own it and how it gave you some wisdom that you can bring forth. And, we're in this human experience, right? And we catch ourselves. So just even
Mhm.
catching and shifting, like, whoa, 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 what am I doing? I know earlier I talked about the river spot that I went to. And one of the things that Molly always would say to me when we sat at that river was, you will never again see that same droplet of water passing by you. So live in the precious present moment of now, because that is where life is lived. And as I watch the river and I sit there, that's often what I think about too, is like, be here, be here, be here, be now, because this is where life is lived.
And it's the
So,
miraculous moment. That moment is so
yes.
that one droplet is a miracle that happened at that moment. You got to witness it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Like,
Like, what a blessing. Like,
I
really,
know.
every moment of our life is a blessing. And the more that we can live in the present moment of here and now and keep ourselves in the present moment, the more we're going to regulate our nervous system, the more that we're going to receive, because there is so much to receive in every given moment of time, every
Yes.
given moment of time. And I know
So much
that
love
part.
everywhere to receive.
So much love. Yes, yes. And
Mhm.
abundance, abundance, I have come to really see abundance as being God in form that we receive. God is not limited. There's no limitations on God, but we are the ones that place up the limitation when we're worrying about the future, when we're what ifing, when we're perseverating on the past, when we're pulling ourselves out of this moment. And so we actually miss a lot of the abundance that comes to us, and letting go of the definition of what that abundance
Yeah,
should be, because
yeah.
that's control. That's the egoic mind. When we
Mhm.
can let go of defining what it should be and instead stand in the posture of receptivity, and we're ready to receive whatever it is that the divine has for us in this given moment, we begin to actually experience more and more and more abundance. The world likes to tell us what abundance should be. It's a number that should be in your bank account, or a really fancy vacation, or a car. And maybe it can be those things, right? But there's so, so, so much more, like sun on your face, wind on your cheek, a beautiful hummingbird right in front of you here now, sitting watching a river here now. And so again, listeners, if you're, if any of this is inspiring to you, really bring your attention into the here and the now and start to look for those micro moments of happiness and receive. Like
Glimmers.
maybe you can shift your glimmers, exactly, looking for those glimmers and those sparkles, and sit in the posture of receptivity, because I promise you, you're going to have so much more than you are aware of come into your conscious state of mind, and then you're receiving it. And what you're doing is you are receiving from the divine, who is always there wanting to give to you, give to you, give to you, and provide for you in so many different ways. I have two more questions for you before we wrap this up.
Mhm.
So you support in a very eclectic way today. Again, you are amazing at building out websites. You find it really super exciting to learn about all kinds of technology. I don't. That's why I have you on my team. Um, you manage my podcast beautifully. So part of what really fuels you in that, Heather, is that you love supporting other people who are on a mission to help other people, because your work helps them
Mhm.
to shine their light more fully. So why does that mission matter so much to you?
Well, they all say that we are like particles of stardust, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
we're a little bit of stars.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we think of the light of the soul, and I think of it
Yeah.
as being like bright and shimmery like the stars. And the
Mm-hmm.
stars illuminate in the darkness. So in my imagination, we have these stars here on Earth, which is all of us. So we have the stars on the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
not just in the solar system. So if each of us carries this unique light or
Mm-hmm.
frequency that the world needs. Like the world needs our
Yeah.
unique light, our unique frequency. And just like the stars, can get clouded, so can we. And but we get clouded by fear, by doubt, weight of trying to do it all alone. Oof, I know what
Right.
that feels like, right?
Yep.
Well, I like to try to help clear those clouds away so that we can shine
Mm-hmm.
more fully and shine more authentically and shine in the way that our divine design is meant to. And so that way we can diffuse the clouds from others. So getting rid of their
Mm-hmm.
confusion, their doubt, their fear, their worry, and the burden that they might be holding. And then I think if each of us are able to do that, we're putting together this pattern of constellations here on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm. I
the
love
mission.
that. That is the
Like,
most beautiful, magical explanation of your mission. And I hope anyone listening to this really got to see through this whole conversation, and even that, just how magical and sparkly and loving you are. And I can attest that that's the extra special that you bring into the work, whether again, it's back end, website management, or hooking up different things of technology, or even doing energy work with people. So I will drop here in the comments your contact information if people are interested in working with you in any way, shape, or form, whether that is in scheduling a long distance energy session with you, or your virtual assistant work, any of it, website design. We'll put that here in the comments. So if our listeners were to walk away today with just one reminder about energy, alignment, divine design, what would it be, Heather? What would you want them to walk away with?
that you are divine energy
Mm.
and that energy is all around you. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the trees, the birds, the stars,
Mm.
but
Mm.
it's within you. You're not separate from it. You are divinity, and divinity is
Yes.
all around us. So we're all connected because we're all divine.
Mm.
And we
That's
just
so
need to like
beautiful.
be aligned with our divine self in order
Yeah.
to allow the brightness to really shine.
Mhm. I love that so much. Just in hearing that and receiving that, I could feel myself shift into a higher frequency, like really, like just
Mhm.
receiving that truth. So thank you so much for that, Heather.
Thank you for sharing. This was
I
fun.
love this conversation. This was so much, so much. Every time we connect, I just am so reminded of how beautifully God designed not only our bodies, but this entire universe, this whole existence, and how much peace that we find when we're living in alignment, again, just as you said, with our divinity and our divine design. Friends, I hope that this conversation is one that's blessed you and that you're walking away with today a deeper understanding of the awareness of energy that's flowing. It's flowing through you, around you. And perhaps you now have a fresh desire to really root yourself more in the present moment, to become more aware of energy and how much power you have in shifting it. Remember, you have the power of one, you have the power of divine that you can always tap into, which again is infinite. And the more that we surrender to all the things that get in the way, the more miracles really truly do unfold, and the more joy and abundance you live in your life. Heather and I both share this joint mission of helping souls live their real, true divine design. And our prayer is that this episode encourages you to slow down, to notice the abundance that's all around you, the light that is in you and around you, and to really, really trust the infinite intelligence that is guiding your path. If you're looking for support in your business, whether that's website design, content creation, energy work, Heather really is your gal. I can't emphasize that enough. As long as she has bandwidth, because I know she has a lot more clients than just me. The links for how to connect with her are going to be in the show notes here today. And if this conversation spoke to you, I would really love if you would share it with a friend who could use this reminder too. Rate and review. That really helps us to get this message out to more people. And as always, I invite you to connect with me. You can connect with me if you want to book a soul body discovery call to see about working together. I'm on Substack and Instagram as well. And again, reach out if you're feeling the nudge to take the next step of your own soul aligned journey. Until next time, my friends, may you walk in peace, rooted in love, and open to the divine energy that is always flowing within you. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.